Hello everyone and welcome to Greyhammer and welcome to the Birmingham Zoo, my local zoo. I've talked about it a lot on stream, but I finally got an actual tour. Kind of prepared for you. It may be the longest video I have ever done, so let's strap in and let's visit this zoo that, while it's got some aging parts of it, unlike the entrance here, it's a great zoo. If you do enjoy this type of content of me touring zoos, I will be doing a few more, at least one more this year. And yeah, I think it's going to be fun and enjoyable because I like to go to zoos. So go ahead and leave a like, it will help out. Go ahead and subscribe if you want to see more zoo content, because we do have Planet Zoo and other zoo style information coming up. And go ahead and comment what's your favorite species that we show here, or your favorite exhibit, especially if you're a Planet Zoo person. But yeah, this is the Birmingham Zoo's new entrance. It came out quite a few years ago. Designed, kind of overhauled their old entrance end. But we're going to go into the map and kind of show you kind of how we're going to do the tour, and I'll show with my pointer here. So this is where you enter into this entrance, and we're going to take this is the way that my family's been touring this zoo forever. So we kind of ignore this because it's a playground and a kind of plaza area. You've got some bathrooms, and we're going to go, this is the Alabama Wild section, and then you can go along here, enter the Trails of Africa, and then this is all the trails. You go along to the rhinos, to the primates, then along to the bayou, so the birds and the reptiles. So that's what we're going to do here. There is also a train that runs along the zoo, but we're not going to go into that. I'm sorry, I don't know why that was showing up there. We're not going to do the train. We were tired already. I kind of wore everyone out, so we'll go and do this zoo in exactly the correct order, as is correct by my family at least. So let's get into it. So this is kind of the entrance plaza area. Sorry if any of the pictures are kind of low quality. It wasn't my main focus to take a bunch of pictures, and this is kind of mirrored on the other side, but it's a very nice entrance. I liked the old one a bit as well because it had macaws at the front entrance, but that has been done away with. Instead, we just have some nice ponds that actually don't have anything. So as you go into the Alabama Wilds, unfortunately they have a pond aquarium, outdoor aquarium for native fish of Alabama, but that was closed due to something that I don't know for sure. But this is the Alabama Wilds entrance, which starts off with the kind of a petting zoo. We didn't really look at the petting zoo too much, but I just kind of wanted to show this barn structure and then some chickens, and then they have a bunch of stuff, but all the animals were outside, such as their miniature donkey, Gulf Coast sheep, Nigerian dwarf goats, and Boer's goats as well. But then we got to one of their newer exhibits, and in my opinion, one of the best. It's two enclosures, really, that they can rotate the animals through because they have two North American black bears from Montana. These were rescued bears, and they are amazing. This is kind of their first enclosure here that you're seeing. This is one that I don't see them in as often, but in the next one, this is where we kind of see them. It's a more wooded area, so it kind of, you've got one enclosure here that's more urban or suburban, and then you go into the woods, and this is one of them walking along in the background that I was able to get a pretty decent picture. And then this is the other one who was sitting in the water pool. So you've got some nice native plants, such as these magnolias, some saw palmettos, so it really gets you into the Alabama. And then this picture, this is where they can go into their other enclosure if they need to be separated, and this was the other bear walked along this ridge and kind of just sat up there. Couldn't get many great pictures, but it's a nice little rustic kind of cabin structure. It's a three-sided cabin, so one of those sides is this viewing window, where you do have that bird safety glass. I think I mentioned this, but this might be a long video because I have 70 something slides, but we're going to try and get through it. This is the Jane H. Brock Conservation Cabin, which talks a lot, and you can see the North American black bear end of enclosure here. This used to be a zip line, but they have made it into a kind of nice area for some keystone species of Alabama, and we're going to see some of those now. This is a gopher tortoise, which is an incredibly important species of tortoise that lives in the southeast, the only native tortoise to the southeast, and a species that creates burrows for all kinds of species, including things like diamondback rattlesnakes, certain species of toads, armadillos. Other animals will take over their burrows, and our next species that we're going to show is one of the most important species that lives in these burrows. But I am going to warn you, if you are afraid of snakes, this is going to be a large snake. In fact, this is the largest non-venomous snake in North America, and is one of my favorites, if not my favorite snake. So that's your warning. I'll put in a timestamp to say when the snakes are in. So here we go. This is the eastern indigo snake. This is their big male, who we actually caught during feeding time. You can see the mouse here. I actually have a video. I'm hoping YouTube doesn't get mad at me having this 20-second video of the snake eating, but you know what? I think it's so cool, I'll show it anyway. So this is an eastern indigo snake, largest non-venomous snake in North America, and they are super cool, or the United States, I should say, I think. So this is the video of it eating the mouse. It's a little intense, but you can really see them working that mouse into its mouth. It was really cool to see. We're not going to watch the whole thing because I don't think YouTube will be too happy with this. But really just cool. This is a snake that really likes to eat other, I guess we are seeing the whole video, likes to eat other snakes particularly, so they have to separate it from their female, which is in their reptile house, which we'll get to in a while. The next enclosure we saw was their eastern wild turkey, and these guys were really showing off for us. They only had 2 in here. They've definitely had more in the past. In fact, they have had babies quite a few times, but this was really cool to see, but no need to go too much into detail with them when you've got the new cougar crossing enclosure. So this is one of those enclosures. I think this one is for the bobcats. It's so new they don't even have signage really up for them yet, so no education boards. These were one of the no-shows, unfortunately. But they do have a really cool enclosure. So yeah, I think this is the cougar side on the left. And then they also have the red-tailed hawk that is included in this as well. Which is a really cool native hawk species. And then this is another view of the bobcat's shelter, or external shelter. They have a large internal shelter that has viewing, but you couldn't really see into it very well with the light. And then here we go. This is our North American river otter that you can see through a viewing bubble if you're brave enough to crawl through this cave to go see the otter's den. There are kind of 3 enclosures for these North American river otters. The Otter's Den, which was where they were at the time, but you also have this kind of river run area here. This used to be housing beavers, but they enlarged it to make it so that the otters could use this enclosure and this enclosure at the same time. And then the Otter's Den is kind of where they have a little bit more land, because this probably has a little less land than North American river otter should have, so they have them in rotating habitats to kind of solve that issue. And you can just see they have a toy in here made out of PVC pipe. These otters are usually very fun to watch, but they were sleeping. A lot of the animals were sleeping, but we didn't get too many no-shows, so I'm going to take it as a win. This is just a wetland that they have there in the Alabama wilds, which really leads up to our next species, the sandhill crane, right here. We actually saw a native snake in there. The banded water snake was pretty cool. the crane was trying to get to it, and the snake was doing its darndest to run away. So we actually saw two non-venomous native snakes that were just wild in the zoo: the banded water snake and the Carolina water snake. And then the next enclosure over was the golden eagle, which only lives in North Alabama, but is a cool species nonetheless. They have two here in a relatively large flight aviary that I didn't get a great picture of the whole thing, but they're usually on the ground. I think these are probably rescued eagles. They may not even be able to fly, but if they were, they actually have a bit of room to fly around, so they could move through flight. So next, we go through to the Trails of Africa, which as I explained, and we're going to get a glimpse of the elephants, which the elephants have a very large, I believe it's an 8-acre enclosure, and these piles of dirt, they're doing construction and in the general area, and they've donated soil to the zoo, and the elephants enjoy playing with it. But then we're on to our tortoise enclosure, which we've got our aldabras and radiated, but we'll get more pictures of them later as well. So first thing up is our predator house, which here we have our 2 coyotes. And for anyone who's dogging on coyotes in Planet Zoo, just look at how entertaining these guys were. They just stood up at the glass and then got a little tired of us and walked away, but they were a very fun species to watch, very personable. And they just look great. I loved getting this close to coyotes, which we see native to this area. These are also rescued coyotes. There are quite a few animals rescued in the zoo, including the bobcats and cougars that we were not able to see. In the predator house, the first enclosure you're going to see is the palace cat. This is a little bit of an outdated enclosure. The buildings in the zoo are probably the most outdated parts of it, so when we have the predator and the primate house, you're going to see that they're a little bit outdated, but this is definitely a AZA accredited zoo. It is the only AZA accredited zoo in Alabama, and these guys are well within the accreditation limits, what is required for their space. So they actually have quite a bit of climbing space, and this was in fact for one Palace's cat. They have, I believe, 3. They have had breeding success, so they actually have them separated. And then here we have the fennec fox. That's always resting, but I have seen videos of it playing around, and they are so cute. I believe they only have the one fennec fox, and last I heard it was a very old individual. Next, we've got, there's indoor viewing for the coyote, but they were in the outdoor portion. You can compare your wingspan to different, and I'm making a funny face here, but I'm a turkey vulture wingspan. The next is their black-footed cats, another species they've had great success breeding with, and that's going to be a theme, actually. They actually have cut down a lot of species in the predator house because they've had such breeding success, and they've moved to separate the males and females. One they haven't separated the males and females for is their red pandas, another one where they have had quite a few babies with their 2 red pandas that they've had. I know one of them's named Gizmo. I'm not sure which one, but they have a climbing structure. They were moving around, quite active. It was quite cool to see. This is Josh, the African lion. He has 2 enclosures that are relatively small, I'll say, but because they rotate through them, it is only 1, it's not nearly as bad. There's a lot of story behind this lion, but I'm not going to get too much into it because of time. Again, got a lot of slides, but if you want to learn more about him, you can look at the Birmingham Zoo's website. The next enclosure, we have 2 no-shows. Again, we didn't get too many no-shows, but we did get these. This is for the eastern bongo here, and then the red-flanked duiker. They're both pretty secretive animals. In fact, the eastern bongo, they say, hey, watch the fence line, because they like to hang out around the places that are a little bit difficult for them to watch. And usually I see the bongo, but was not there today. We then go on to our plains zebra. I believe it's a Grant's zebra. And here's one picture. I think I have another. No. Okay. Yeah. So this is their zebras. They used to have them in with their ostrich and everything, but zebras can be a little bit aggressive, so they were moved to this enclosure. They've got a good amount of privacy here. It's not a very large enclosure, for sure. Could definitely use some work, but they do seem to be pretty happy, and they have bred in the past. So, very cool. This is one of their better enclosures, I will say, is their giraffe area with ostriches as well. The ostriches were separate in this enclosure to the right, which there's a big gate that the giraffes can cross over to when the gate is kind of brought across. I'll kind of show you that. But you've got a pretty large paddock for reticulated giraffes, and then you have the common ostrich kept in this other area. You can see the lion enclosure here in the background. So there is a bit of that predator-prey dynamic. So yeah, this is the lion enclosure that he was not in at the time. So this here is kind of where the giraffes are, and there is a feeding station as well, which is almost obligatory if you have giraffes. This right here is the gate. They can walk across basically where you walk if they kind of get an airlock system, and then they can go to that other enclosure. But they have quite a few females. They've had a lot of breeding success with reticulated, and this is their big male, who's probably 18 feet tall, I would say, based off of how close they got to us. And then also part of the kind of lookout for the reticulated giraffes, you also have this bird aviary, where you have amazing species like the emerald starling, the buffalo weavers, blue-bellied rollers, some Cape thick-knees, and one other bird I don't remember the name of, but was very beautiful and calling out. Back to the tortoises, here's our two aldabras chilling together. I don't think I have any pictures of the radiated, but they are a critically endangered species from Madagascar, so really cool to see them. And yeah, these are some beautiful, very large Aldabras tortoises. But we're back to the Trails of Africa Elephants Trail, which we can talk a little bit about the zoo's elephant conservation. This is actually a male bachelor herd. When this first enclosure was first released in 2008, I believe it was the largest male bachelor herd in zoos, I believe in the United States. Well, I know in the United States, but I think maybe the world, with 5 male elephants. They've since moved 2 others to breeding programs in other zoos, but these elephants have been used for researching male bachelor herds and for artificial insemination efforts. So this is one of their males. This is one of the smaller ones. They actually had tusk surgery on one of the larger ones, but definitely came up right near the fence for us. Was very cool to see. And they had a bit of a play fight here. This is their large male. I believe his name is Bawagi. He had tusk surgery, and so that's why he does not have his tusk. I am pretty confident in that, but you can look that up on their website as well. They're very transparent about medical problems with their animals. So yeah, they were playing here. Really fun to watch. They just bathed in the mud. And then here they have their southern white rhinoceros, is what the fence was saying, but the signage was saying. The picture, to me, yeah, it does look like a white rhinoceros. It's kind of hard to tell the lip. But they have had white and black rhinoceros in the past. But this was a new addition, and so being secretive, so we could only see it in the background. But this one has 3 enclosures that it can move in between. Into the primate house. This is probably my least favorite part of the zoo. It's a little outdated, especially for their white-handed gibbon. Here they only have one, and he's got this very boring outdoor enclosure. But these spider monkeys were making up for it with quite a bit of activity. And parts of this, actually, I really do like. So the spider monkeys have quite a good habitat. They've been here for forever, have had great breeding success, and they also have an outdoor enclosure with a tunnel, which I did not take pictures in because they were not there. The next one is for crowned lemurs and ring-tailed lemurs. This used to have a few more lemurs in it, but maybe AZA made them get rid of a few. I'm not sure, because it was only one ringtail and two of the crowned lemurs that we were able to see. But maybe space requires that. But they were cool for sure, but sleepy. A lot of the animals were, but not these guys. The cotton-top tamarin, endangered species from South America, that the zoo has also have a great deal of breeding success with. There used to also be a sloth in this enclosure, but their signage for that has been taken out. On to the next one, we've got the DeBraz's monkey, which you can kind of see zoomed in here in these actual palmettos, which is really cool. Some actual live trees in their indoor enclosure. This is actually an enclosure that they share with the Cape porcupine, but they have a separation wall here so that the monkeys can get away from the porcupine if they so desire. But in between those, there is a spider monkey enclosure. They weren't out, or sorry, not spider monkey, squirrel monkeys. There is a squirrel monkey enclosure. We weren't able to see the squirrel monkeys today, but usually they're very active, so it was kind of unusual to not see them. But it's a pretty interesting enclosure, and they're very active most of the time. This is that other side where you can see the DeBrazos monkeys with these Cape porcupines, which is pretty cool. Cape porcupines can't go over very steep hills, so this is a perfectly fine barrier to keep them from going down, and they have a wall, retaining wall, to keep them from moving into the other parts of the habitat. So if they get a little antsy, the DeBrazos monkey has no need to fear. The next thing is kind of an invasive species showcase, kind of going into the lionfish and how lionfish are an invasive species in the Caribbean, and how you should eat lionfish because they're kind of frequent now in the southeast to eat them in restaurants, which is pretty cool. They've done a lot of exhibits in this area, like animals that are almost extinct, but now they've got this cool aquarium with a lionfish. The next one is their black howler monkeys, which they have a male, female, and their little baby that I have a picture here on the right. They have a pretty cool Mayan ruins, and this is the primate and South American section, so these kind of fit into both of those. There's a few animals that aren't South American, but you do have mostly primates from South America and other animals from South America that we'll get into a little bit later. But you do have some African and Asian species as well. But these black howler monkeys, the male is not as black as I would normally see them, but he is significantly larger than the others, so I do believe it is the male, and it has that kind of lion mane. This is their giant anteater enclosure outdoors. We weren't able to see the anteater, but it's a pretty cool. You go outside for a little bit to make a twist around in the building. Usually he's pretty out and about, but today was pretty. The day we went was pretty hot, so definitely might have been just relaxing inside for the day. This is the zoo's jaguar enclosure, and believe it or not, this used to be a gorilla enclosure, but it was deemed to be too small. They meshed over the habitat and put in Khan. He is from the Jacksonville Zoo, and he's amazing, and I've got some more pictures. And they really planted this exhibit, I feel like pretty recently. I don't remember it having all these plants. This is about maybe half the enclosure shown here, maybe a third. But I had to get some pictures because he woke up and just looked straight at us, and he was pretty amazing to watch. Very beautiful cat species. Our next one is one of my favorite species, the giant river otters. They have a land and water side. A lot of people complain that they have too much land, not enough water. But if you know giant river otters, they actually need 60% land and 40% water, which this pretty nicely goes with. They are actually a land carnivore that lives in the water part of the time. So these two sisters were sleeping today, but we did get to see them, and they are so cute. This is probably the worst habitat at the zoo, besides maybe the Lar gibbon, and it is for the Sumatran orangutan. And while they have had breeding success, I would just say And they did seem to have opened it up a little bit more on the ceiling so that there's at least natural light coming in. It used to be much darker than this, but it's still a little dark and gloomy. The They were kind of hiding. There's one, I think it's over here, the baby was hiding under a blanket, and then I think the male is up in this corner here, or maybe there, and the female was over there. The baby is, I think, 5 or 6 years old now, maybe older. So more like a teenager, but it takes a long time for orangutan to grow up. So that's going to exit the primate building, except for we get a little bit of a bird, a buffalo weaver, or some sort of weaver. I'm trying to remember what it is, but a beautiful little bird. But we're going to get into kind of the bird and bayou section. And we'll start this off with American flamingos, which are amazing species. They share this exhibit with black-necked swans, which is pretty cool. And I didn't actually see them much, but one of my family members took these pictures. The bayou section, we've got some American alligators. In fact, we have 3 American alligators in this enclosure. This is the smaller one, and they have 2 larger ones as well. They usually also have a bunch of waterfowl in the adjoining space that's right across from them, but this was closed down. It might have been because bird flu had recently come in the area, but we did see quite a bit of other birds. So I'm not sure. They might have just been taken out of exhibit for renovations. We did, however, see the barred owl, and you can get a pretty good picture of the other alligator here. But the barred owls do live in this small aviary. They are probably rescued as well, or at least have clipped wings. But they're a pretty cool bird species and nice to see in the zoo. And they live all around in Alabama. If you haven't figured out, there's a big focus on native Alabama wildlife. This is, however, not native Alabama wildlife. We have this large bird area, which has at least 2 species. I believe it's 3 species. It's got the Cory bustard here. The species I saw was the Cory bustard and the blue duiker, which we'll have a picture of later. I knew I was going to have to break out that 30 times zoom on my phone. So we've got the Cory bustard, and I think we also have a blue duiker and a blue crane. And here we've got pictures of the blue duiker here and the Cory bustard a little bit more close up. The next aviary has a few species, a betong, this Nicobar pigeon, and this is that enclosure, and it also had these masked lapwings, which were pretty cool. I have not really seen them too much in zoos, at least that I know of, but they're interesting Australian species, not South American. This is kind of this used to be the kangaroo country is what it was called, but they got rid of their kangaroos and filled it up with more birds, and I actually think I prefer it. We also go by their lorikeet enclosure, where they have, I think, 5 species of lorikeets, including cockatoos, which you can, for a price, go in with some nectar and feed the birds, which is pretty cool. But we're getting into sort of a lot of older style aviaries in this next section. They're not that big, they're very outdated, but they still work for the birds that they keep. It's just, they're aging for sure. And one of the birds we see here is the green aracari. So a really cool species. I'm not going to show every species in this area because there was a lot, but I'll show you some of the highlights. This is a Victorian crowned pigeon habitat. I believe it's behind that palmetto there. And then we have the black-billed magpie from the southwest of the United States. Very personable. Came right up to the mesh to look at us. Very intelligent bird. Was really cool to see. We have the white-naped crane here, and the cinereous vulture. 2 very cool species as well. And then we've got a few other great species. The red-billed hornbill, most commonly known from The Lion King. Red-crowned cranes, like you have in Planet Zoo, and the Abyssinian ground hornbill. They used to have secretary birds in here as well, and it's still on their species list, but we didn't see them. They used to be in this enclosure, so I don't think they would share an enclosure with cranes. They did used to share it with the duiker that we did not get to see today, or the day that we went. These are a few other species that I thought were really cool and beautiful. This is the blue-faced honeyeater, the spectacled owl, which is a really cool species that lives in the same area as the spectacled bear, but is an owl form version, and the violet-backed starling. There's a bit of a walk-through aviary as well, which I don't know the name of this species, but this is the African pygmy goose, which is actually a duck, and the another area for Victoria ground pigeons. They also had several other species in this area, but these were kind of a few of the cool ones I wanted to show off. We're now to my favorite section, the reptile section, and they've got this beautiful art on the front to kind of bring it all together. And one of the first species you see is the Egyptian tortoise, a very cute pint-sized tortoise species that lives in the deserts of Africa. Next we have a blood python, and they're a very beautiful ground-dwelling python species. I don't know as much about them. I believe they're somewhat aggressive in captivity, from what I've heard, but I'm not 100% sure. This right here is a shingleback turtle, which is pretty cool. I'm not sure too much about them, but I would guess that they're closely related to box turtle due to their weird shell shape. Here we have a beauty rat snake, which has a few different color morphs actually, and this is their cave variety. And they share their species with the giant Asian toads here, and it was feeding time, but only the toads seemed interested in actually eating. We also have this green tree boa, which is again a beautiful species. And then on to the next, we have this beaded lizard curled up here. Not a great picture, but one of the venomous lizards of the world. And we have a blue-tongued skink here, another large lizard species, very often kept as pets, and a really cool species to boot. This is the highlight of the reptile enclosure section, and I just love it. It's for the Komodo dragon, and they just are an amazing species. This is going to be, I believe his name is Max. You can see him right down here. He is the resident Komodo dragon, and here we get some better pictures of him. They have a beautiful statue here, and you can just see him great posed here. I really like their enclosure. They does climb up there. He might be a little too big now, but they do a lot of enrichment with him with hanging mice on some hooks that hang off the wall. Very cool species. And we've got a few other cool species that are relatively new as far as I'm aware, but these are not one of them. These are 3 of the native venomous snakes that they have. They have, I believe, 4 of them, which Alabama has 6. So we had a picture of, I didn't really get a picture of the copperhead because it was very burrowed into the kind of pine straw that they have here. And I didn't get a great picture of the cottonmouth here. This is, however, is the eastern diamondback rattlesnake, which is the largest venomous snake in North America. And I did forget to mention the indigo snake is actually the longest snake in the United States, which is pretty cool. And then this here is an albino timber rattlesnake. The other 2 native venomous snakes are the pygmy rattlesnake and the eastern coral snake. So here's a few amphibians/turtles. We have the bumblebee dart frog, the Caups Sicilian, which is new, as far as I'm aware. I don't think I've ever seen a Sicilian in real life, so this was pretty cool to see, kind of hiding out in this backdrop. And then this is the 3-striped box turtle, I'm pretty sure. I don't remember exactly, but it is a box turtle species. The next and last enclosure in our tour of the Birmingham Zoo is the caiman lizard, a beautiful species. There's other reptiles in this as well, but they weren't as visible or photogenic, so really wanted to show this caiman lizard. This used to be for the green anaconda, but the caiman lizard suits it much better, especially with animal husbandry needs. So, just want to say that I really enjoyed my time here at the Birmingham Zoo. We've got another zoo tour coming up in the somewhat near future, probably in either late June or early July, because I will be going to the Detroit Zoo, and It's supposed to be a really good zoo. It has one of my favorite animals, the wolverine. So go ahead and like this and subscribe to let me know that y'all enjoy these types of videos. I really have enjoyed making this. It is actually not as long as I thought it was going to be, which is great. So hopefully it's entertaining for you. If you want more information about the Birmingham Zoo, go ahead to their website and let me know if you want to see more about them, because I really enjoy the zoo and we're thinking about maybe getting a membership at some point soon. So, would be nice for me to be able to go there a lot more often. But that's going to be it for this episode. Go ahead and comment what your favorite animal that you saw here was, and what animal you'd like to see in another zoo, and any other zoos in the southeast, especially ones that won't be too difficult for me to go to, or just zoos in the United States or even in the world that you think I should go to. Just hidden nice zoos, because I've got a few that are lined up, and I've got a really nice one for next year. But that's where I'm going to leave it here. Go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.